Hello everybody, it's Damon, Crazy Logics 007 on YouTube, and Crazy Logics in the forums. Rockford P3 subwoofer we're working on here. I got it almost done, but we're coming to the Machete video, and built me a little signal generator. Actually, my youngest son built it. We did it out here in the garage, and he soldered everything up, and it worked first time perfect. I made me a little set of leads to go out to help do some testing on the amps and stuff. This is the last part of the Machete. We finish everything up, get all the outputs, do some testing and stuff, and I point out that the rail voltage does not like going away. It does not have any bleed off resistors in it, and so that's something you have to be really careful on when you're working with amps. Is the high voltage that's created on the rails, and then if it doesn't have bleed off resistors to drain those main caps, you need to be using your bleed off little resistor here to drain that cap or that rail voltage back down so you don't get bit. So we got another one that'll be coming up. Oh, if I can get a hold of it here. Oh, it's a Scar 4500.1 SK. It's got a blown power supply. I think I'm gonna need a bigger bench. Enjoy the video, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, and look forward to that big Scar along with more Rockford. I'm gonna let that Rockford bake a little more for comments and stuff and questions before we go into it. Plus there's a little cool something I found on it while waiting. And like I said, I appreciate you guys watching, and throw me some comments. That's always fun. And I'll see you in the next video. Here we go, last part 4, final part on the little Machete. Alright, so I drained the capacitors, and I hooked up my speaker wires, real careful, just in case. Hooked up my RCAs. When I go to test like this, turn off all bass stuff. So that's all the way off. Turn your gain. My gain is set down not to minimum, but just a little bit up, maybe to right there. So if that was minimum, it's up maybe 1/8 of a turn. The low pass filter I set up about midway, and I turn off all the subsonic. We just want just to make sure it's playing correctly. This is not a sound quality test. This is not a, any kind of test that does anything besides make sure that we don't hear really stupid, crazy distortion or something's really bad wrong. It's enough of a test to tell us that it sounds like it's okay, and that we need to put it back in the case, get the clamps on it so that nothing can overheat, and we can give it a real test. But this is just a great way, I think, running it through a subwoofer to make sure that you don't hear anything horrible, and that'll get you to where you know it's okay. Let's go ahead and try and put it in the case and clamp it in, and then do some real testing to it. If you was to hear something horrible, obviously it's nice that it's still out of the case. You didn't put all the clips back in or whatever you had to do. You could continue to work on it. So like I said, super low volume, super easy. Let's start it up and let's see what happens. I'm gonna kick the power on here. Got our little light here. It's gonna come on. And there is bass hitting. Let it run for a second or two more and shut her off. Make sure these are all cold. The other neat thing that does is, if there was something really out of wonk, playing just the tiniest bit of music through there is going to, if something was really bad, those would get hot real quick. You might see that in other videos where something like that happens. But bam, looks like it's good. I'm going to kill the power. Carefully unplug the RCAs. And Once again, we're going to let this set. I'll flip it over here in a minute, and we'll get the discharge resistor after it. Get her all unhooked. Then we're going to get her back in the case. And then I'm not going to forget that once I get this all mounted back up, I want to add some reinforcement goo right there, because this thing is just barely, it just held on to the three little legs that compromise or surmise that. And so, man, it's real easy to bump, and it makes me a little nervous. I'd like a little goo in there to help hold it solid, but I want this bolted all up before I goo it, so that way when if it ever gets unbolted again, it'll be holding it in the right position. All right, I'll see you in a minute after we've let this discharge a little. All right, we're going to real careful flip this thing over, get our discharge resistor in here, go across the leads of that capacitor, hold it there for about 5 seconds or so. Hit this one. Alright, carefully flip her back over. I always check with a multimeter. I don't trust nothing. Been doing electrical stuff for a while. I've been bit once before. Let me get that where you can see it. We were at about 2.8 volts there. So another place you can check it is on the transistor, or on the diodes, the center legs of the diodes, but you got to be careful. You don't want to short nothing out. It's good and discharged. Meter actually helps discharge it a little some too when you're reading. So, all right, so you'll probably see the rest of this at high speed. Make something interesting. Oh, here we go. Taking the speaker wire out, making sure I'm holding it, keeping it away from everything. That's important. You install your amp from your car, do that. Always take your fuse out before you take your positive lead. Get that ground lead out. The remote. I'm holding them things. Now I need to make sure these are ran down. Like I said, you'll probably see this in fast forward, and it'll all be the chipmunks talking, but I'll go ahead and chat about something if it's important, or if I think it's something important. Maybe I'll include it in. Got all the screws down flush. Caps are discharged. Get the board out of the way. All right. So we need to lean these in gently. And get out our brush. Keep mine wrapped up. Get out our thermal compound. Got all these brand new fets. I'll try to lean this up. This amp's small enough. I'll just spread that first initial dab as far as I can go. A little dab more. Man, the factory likes to put way too much thermal compound on. This stuff is not as good. You just want a thin, skinny layer. You want it to be like, these are kind of dry. The thermal compound here is. May even clean this off. Just add a tiny bit of You just want to skim coat it. Those lines in there are great because it's all going to squish flat. We want smashed flat, perfect contacts. In a perfect world, you'd squeeze all the thermal paste out of it. Because there wouldn't be any imperfections or flaws or anything like that. But that's what the thermal paste is doing, is it's helping make a bond to the insulator, which I think on this amp is Capcom tape, and squishes out, fills in any voids to help the heat transfer. You're not substituting a good flat surface. A good, perfectly flat surfaces up against each other would transfer best. We just want a skinny coat. So that it fills all the voids. Because if you slather it on too much, you're actually going to have a layer of this stuff between your FETs and the heatsink, or the insulator and then the heatsink. And this stuff does not conduct as good as if it was straight up FET, a perfect surface of the FET up against the insulator. Like I said, if you've ever done computer stuff, there you go, and properly done a high-end graphic or a CPU install, I just wrap my little wand back up, cap everything off. Oop. You'll know all the websites tell you to make it all perfect. Looking here, I'm going to run my brush across that just to freshen that up. I want it, you want that initial thermal paste to be kind of liquidy, so that way it spreads. In uniform. Go ahead and crack her back open and get just a dab. You don't want none on there. That's worse than any. Thermal compound is proven to work. Get a little bit in here. If it didn't work, they wouldn't use it. They just use too much at the factories, I'll tell you that right this instant. A little thick there and a little thin there. We'll just move a little of this from here to there. And that looks good. Like I said, we want to squish it out, and then you don't want to slam the amp right off the bat with full power when you've re-thermal paste. You want to kind of get the amp warm, let that thermal paste warm up just a little bit and kind of ooze out a little more so the clamps can push against it. Alright, did this one slide in? Yes, it does. And so we have, does not matter which end it looks like. Let me look that up real quick to make sure which end So the terminals are supposed to be down by the Machete logo. I could go back to the things, but the speaker terminals are supposed to be down there, so we need to turn this way. Plastic down here so we don't scratch up the heatsink. Get our ground out of the way. Up in the slot. Real slow. So we don't grab that Capcom tape. And Shazam. She is in. So on this one, the ground actually went right there when you attach the end plate. And so we're going to attach the end plate first. That means I need to find the bag. Here we go. Got all our parts here. We got lots of longs. Got some shorts. Here's a long. Oh, there's a screw. Okay, so got the large clips, small clips. There should be like 4 screws that are longer than all the others. All the rest are the same. Those 4 hold in the terminals and this terminal here. I'll put that on there. This one is the one that has that little ground screw. So we're going to do it first. If you can't remember what the terminals are, and you ain't videotaping like I am, or you can go back and review the video and not look like an idiot, get you a notepad, write down stuff. It's not glaringly obvious. I always separate them out into sizes because then it almost makes it glaringly obvious. Almost wonder, is that the next size down? Oh, that does fit a little better. There's some. The one with the white on it, that was where the warranty sticker was. Long screws go up here. So hold in the speaker terminals and the RCAs and the power terminals. Alright. So we've got the ground attached. That was the important part on this side. Here, line up all the LEDs, get the cover on, and kind of get a screw started here. secret I've found of these these rough coarse screws is to actually spin them backwards. You'll feel it drop in and you get it straight, aligned. Sometimes, not always. There we go. I always leave them loose, so I line all of them up. Just get them all in there. Long ones in here. Tighten them back down once you get them all lined up. And this RCA's got 2 screws in it, so it holds it solid when the screws are all in it. But it just flops a little bit, makes me uncomfortable if you have to take it apart. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little glob right here, a little glob over here. Nice thing about this stuff is it peels off if you need to get it out. But it adds just enough rigidity. Keep things from falling apart. All right. Make sure your clips are centered. If you haven't seen my clip driving tool, it's in a video somewhere. It's just got a notch in it to fit there. Let's do my first one in. I try to raise it up. It's kind of a motion. There. Don't always do it perfect, but I'm conscious about it. To drive that wedge into the clip spot and then down and seated. Always try to get your clips as centered as possible. Evenly spread the pressure out. Alright, she is in. We got our cover screws, but we can flip her over and start hooking up power. Are we recording? Oh yes, yes we are. Got to double check. We'll see the power indication light here. I have got cameras that I've picked up now. Got to get them all figured out, but to be able to do a live stream and actually do multiple shots a little better than just this what I'm doing now. So hopefully the videos will improve. You'll get to see some other stuff. Let's go on ahead and power her up. She came on. The gain set nice and low. There's going to be some bass. Crank the gain up a little. The only thing we don't have on is the bottom plate, so now we got the heat sink all going. She is a running. I think we'll call that a good test there. Kill the power. Now the speaker's hooked up. It's been depowered. It's still got lots of voltage. So, how you should do any amp, but if you was to need to not be able to wait and take the speakers to rewire them, so like you did a competition, you're going to want to get an Allen wrench, and you're going to want to probably cover it in a piece of shrink wrap so it cannot touch the chassis when you've touched these speaker wires. And then when you take one speaker wire out, so if I got this in with the shot, you need to be uber careful and hold on to that wire and don't let it touch nothing. And bam, you can get your speaker wires out. Now we're going to add our resistive block. I'm going to fold back one wire, put it in my hand, keep it away from all other metal. Be real careful with my Allen wrench because I don't have a piece of shrink wrap on it. All right. Got my load block. Set my multimeter up here. I'm going to upgrade my fuse, because now we know it works. I'm playing a 1 hour track of 60 hertz test tone in the RCAs. I'm gonna power up. Then I take my little jumper wire I've made here so I don't have to use my foot switch to power up the amp. And so bam, it's on. Now I take my multimeter and I put it on the positive and the negative. My power supply puts out 12.55 volts unloaded. And so what I'm going to do is crank up the gain while watching the multimeter real slow. Until we drop to 12 volts. I got to do it slow. Back off just a little, because if you do it too fast it trips my power supply's protection mode. We want to be about 12 volts. That way we're still getting plenty of voltage. We're going to drive a whole bunch of power into this 1000-watt resistor, and it's just going to sit here and it's going to cook for a little while. And this resistor is going to get monster hot. Don't touch it. If you end up getting one of these, you'll burn yourself. And I'm just going to let it sit there and cook and make sure that she doesn't go into protect or anything else. We'll get it all done. We'll shut it off. I'll plug the speaker in real quick, test it for some sound to make sure it sounds real good after it's done a nice little cook. But here's where we kind of burn it in, endurance test it a little bit, and make sure all the things that we did hold up to some actual power coming out of this baby. So we're probably juicing at least 40 amps or so here out of the power supply. So roughly 500-600 watts. Something like that, about 500 watts or so, which is more than enough to get anything but a huge monster amps warm, cooked in, kind of break in the components, make sure everything's holding up, that you didn't do something silly. So alrighty, if this helped you out, a like and subscribe would be awesome. I'm just trying to give back a little to the community, pay it forward. Like I said, I do have cameras that I'm working on, and I have a series planned on taking cheapo junk amps that you can get from your friends and other stuff that you ain't going to pay no money for, and how to get into car amp repair a little bit, and it'll teach yourself some without breaking the bank and without screwing up. If you've got a good amp that you would really like to repair because you don't want to have to buy a new one, don't repair it yet. Get some of these crap amps, learn, blow them up, screw up on them a couple times, and get yourself going. And so, and I'll do a tour of the test bench. I'll clean it up a little first, and we will some of the bare minimums you need and what you can do. And I think I'm even going to do a little testing power supply build out of a computer power supply, so that just about anybody can get in and at least do rudimentary amp repair. Maybe keep their stuff going and save them a few dollars in their pocket. Alright, this has been Crazy Logics. Thanks, and I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.